The University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh Fox Cities campus assists the City of Menasha with video recordings of city meetings. Menasha residents and interested parties can get information about city meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the city website, www.cityofmenasha-wi.gov. To express opinions about City of Menasha issues or these broadcasts, contact the Mayor's office, 920-967-3608. Contact the City Alderman. Contact information appears on the website. Or complete the electronic feedback form on the City website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.
Okay, it looks like we have fixed our technical difficulties and we are recording. So at this point, I'd like to call the City of Menasha Common Council meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pause this evening to remember two individuals, civil rights activist and Nobel Peace Prize winner, Dr. Martin Luther King, who died at age 39 on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. Through his activism came the Civil Rights Act of 1964, was intended to end discrimination based on race, color, religion, or national origin in the United States. The act gave the federal law enforcement agencies the power to prevent racial discrimination in employment, voting, and the use of public facilities. This act is often called the most important U.S. law on civil rights and is the hallmark of the American civil rights movement. Also, we remember this evening Brigadier General Charles McGee, who was a Tuskegee Airman pilot who passed away this weekend at the age of 102. Please join me in a moment of silence for these heroic individuals. Thank you.
If we could have the roll, please.
Alderman Sevenick. Here. Alderman Langdon. Here. Alderman Schmidt. Here. Alderman Ted Grady. Here. Alderman Rapella. Here. Alderman Nichols. Here. Alderman Taylor. Here. All are present with the absence of Alderman Tom Grady.
First item on the agenda this evening is the report of department head, staff, and consultants. We have the minutes and communications. Is there a motion? Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I move that we receive minutes A and B and communications C through H.
There's a motion, a second. Is there discussion? Do you have discussion, Stan?
Yes.
Go ahead.
If it would be okay with the council, I was a little confused by the communication we received on the whiting paper mill. Could you kind of address that a little bit? What you're looking for?
Yeah, certainly. So this information was just kind of coming to light a little bit last week, and we wanted to get it out in front of the council as soon as possible. We're still digging through it a little bit, but basically we did approve a contract for the demolition, phase 1 demolition of the Whiting Paper Mill site. At that time, they had a base contract as well as a unit price amount for rackham or regulated commingled material due to the fire that contains certain materials that it has to go as regulated and be taken to a special landfill for that. So that with their contract as well as their proposal, they had an estimate of what they were going to, they felt they were going to hit. As of last week, looking at where they were at, they do appear to be over already from that, and they're still more to go. So we are kind of taking a step back. We did inform them last week to kind of put a pause on trucking that material out, so we can kind of take a look at where they're at, what the contract says, and then if something needs to be brought back to the council, we will certainly do so.
Who determines those materials have to go to that separate?
So they are working with an environmental consultant that they have on staff, and that's part of their base contract that they're paying for that service. But they also work closely with the DNR on this. So we are, I was talking with Todd Drew, our health sanitarian, this afternoon. We're going to take a closer look hopefully this week, and then try to touch base with the DNR as well as the contract and the consultant here, and see what we can do to move this forward without obviously saving dollars on the end of that project.
Okay. So you'll have a follow-up then for us?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Mayor. Same subject then, to follow Alderman Severnick, Sam. There's a fire stack,
Smokestack, yes.
smokestack. Is that gonna be saved?
It's gone.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I did not know it was gone.
Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Item F is public comments on any matter of concern to the city. There is someone in the audience. Did you have any comments this evening? No. We'll move on to the consent agenda then. There are 2 items this evening. Alderman Severnick?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just take the first one.
Okay.
At this time, I'll move for approval of the common council minutes of 1/4/22.
So motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. I got a little bit circular there. Item 2, is there a motion? Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Mayor. Make the motion to accept the payment for KL Engineering's proposal with a maximum cost of $22,428 for the Free Street Bridge underdeck lighting evaluation.
So motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item I is action items. The first is the accounts payable and payroll for December 31st through January 13th. Is there a motion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the accounts payable and payroll for the term of December 31st, 2021 through January 13th, 2022 in the amount of $9,337,455.90.
So motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 2 is the beverage operators licenses. Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the beverage operator's license applications for the 2021 through 23 licensing period as listed under approved in the clerk's memo dated January 13th, 2022.
Is there a second? Second. So motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 3 is the city video camera policy. Alderman Severnick.
What are we asking to do, to create some type of policy or a ordinance or something? Come back?
So this is the policy, correct? Yes. So the memo states the policy. Did you want to?
Do we have to put that in any other form, or is this fine?
It would not be an ordinance, it would just be a policy. Did you want to explain, Attorney Captain, what we're doing?
Yeah, but what I'm asking, Mayor, does it need to be put into something somewhere to be a policy of the city? I guess city attorney will answer that question.
No, it does not.
Does not, okay.
It will be in the official records, having been adopted by the Common Council, and then becomes effectively the policy.
All right, well, with that, Mayor, then I'll move that we go along with, there isn't a recommended motion, so go along with the city video camera policy outlined by the police department and public works.
So there's a motion to approve the city video camera policy. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Further discussion? Alderman Grady.
Thank you. We have to approve option one?
Nope, this is just the policy
Oh,
of
this is
how
just
it
the
would be
policy.
used.
Oh, okay. No question then.
Okay, Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. The memo includes information about who has access to the information, and that requests can be made based on work-related needs. My question is, which departments would process and/or approve those requests?
Who wants to take that one?
I can take that
Okay.
one. The requests for the data is, what's in this policy is for staff, so that if staff is in need of some of the data, they would work with each other with regard to that, but it would be Public Works.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 4 is the traffic camera network vendor selection. And this is where you need to make that selection. There is a recommendation for option 1, but if you would wish to do a different one, you could do that as well. Alderman Sevenick?
I called Laura today and we talked about all the three options. I don't like the fact, with option 2, not being able to go out on the cloud. And option 3, I don't think we're there yet, plus it's quite a bit of an expense. It's $2,500 on every camera a year. And so if we ever do decide to go to the flock safety protocol, then I would be in favor of that, but we're not set up for that at this point. And as you recall, we also have money in the parks budget to address some of this too, and that we need to get this first set up so that we can build off of it. So at this time, I'll go along with staff's recommendation to proceed with option 1 for Conda network proposal with an amount not to exceed the budgeted $20,000 for traffic camera installation at 3rd and Racine. And if it does come in more, then I would obviously ask that you come back to the council.
There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Do you have anything else, Stan?
Oh, sorry.
Seeing no one else, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item J is held over business. Item 1, we have been working with Atkins Development. There is still a couple things that we have not been able to come to an agreement with. So at this time, we're recommending that we just table the motion and we'll bring it back forward at such a date when we do have that finalized. If anyone wishes to do that. Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. Move to table the development agreement by and between the City of Menasha and Atkins Development Group for the development of the Woodland Lakes Cottage development.
Is there a second? Don't need a roll call on this, do we? All those in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no one, the motion carries. Item 2 is the 2022 Strong Neighborhoods Menasha Program update. Is there a motion or is there discussion? What is there? There isn't. Yeah, because it. Yep. That, yes. There you go, Ann.
There. I'll make the motion to approve the amendments to the 2022 Strong Neighborhoods Program update.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Did you have any more discussion yet?
No.
No? Okay. Seeing no discussion, if we could have a roll call vote? Oh, I'm sorry. I looked right at you and I didn't see it on. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Page 8. Under special projects, there is a reference to, there's a portion in red that's been added, and assist in the cost of adding to the connectivity of the entire community through vehicular and pedestrian transit. And I know that there has been conversation back and forth on what exactly that means. So and to me, it's very vague at the moment. So Director Schrader, could you provide more detail on what that means?
Yeah, certainly. So when we had closed tax increment district number 6, those dollars, the last year dollars, were placed into this program. And at that time, we were looking specifically at this special project, the Appleton Water Plant acquisition and development for affordable housing. And at that time, the conversation was to look at acquiring the project as well as assist in the cost of the infrastructure to bring those lot sales down to make those lots meet that criteria of affordability. At this past budget season, we had looked at that, we had discussed it in that fashion, and a question came up that it did not read that it was the acquisition as well as the installation of infrastructure. This was an attempt to do that, and I'm gathering that it was poorly attempted, but basically that's what it was looking to do, is to state not only the acquisition of the property, but also the installation of the infrastructure to assist in those costs of bringing those land sales down to meet the criteria of affordability. At bare minimum, it is getting us to talk about it.
So when you say infrastructure, help me understand what you're thinking there.
Yeah, so infrastructure in this sense would be, the street, the utilities, everything that would need to be placed into be a subdivision. Typically, when we are doing subdivisions, it's guided by a private developer, and they're kind of taking on the initial costs, and then we're providing that deferred assessment back to them. But basically, in this terms of connectivity, would include all the street work, the infrastructure, the utilities that would needed as if it was a private developer doing that.
So I think I just heard you say that in a typical subdivision situation, the city provides developer assistance to install that infrastructure and allows them to do the work. And in that case, they're also selling lots too, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I don't understand why we wouldn't do something like this the same way we've always done it. Why in this circumstance now, we would front those costs as the city through this housing program when we could be assisting current property owners, continue to assist them in their housing improvements with those funds.
So the city of Menasha has been looking at this property and working with the city of Appleton. Near the time of the closure of the district, we had been in conversations with them about their need for the second redundant raw water line to service their facility there. And that was looking at going through our conservancy. So at that time, we started these conversations of if we allowed such easements, would you allow us to acquire the property from the city of Appleton, which kind of triggered the need and the conversation of the city of Menasha acquiring the property from the city of Appleton.
But that's one issue to me, is the property acquisition. That's separate from infrastructure installation. We can acquire the property, and then what I'm saying is I don't understand why we wouldn't follow the way that we already have in place with providing developer assistance to install that infrastructure. Why would we suddenly change how we do things?
You kind of answered the question there, is that we would own the property. So all these other developments, all these other subdivisions that happen, that developer owns that property and triggers that to start. So by us owning the property, it is kind of the same process because we are technically the owner in starting that process. Now, we can certainly look at lots of different options of, selling the property to a developer and then going through those processes, but that's not what was originally intended when we brought this forward. What was originally intended, at least from a staffing standpoint, was the actual cost of acquisition as well as infrastructure installation, and I believe it was kind of described in that fashion when we were going through kind of a breakdown of how we could get these lots to be affordable lots.
So can I help as to two things that are different as well? The first thing is we do expect to recover some of those costs back into the Strong Neighborhoods program when we sell the lots. But what makes it different is this street will most likely only have homes on one side of it, which means the infrastructure is much more expensive to put in because you don't have two lots to share that infrastructure with. And because it's important to connect the east side and the west side of the city together, we think it's worthwhile doing that. But these lots would not be affordable even for larger homes if we were not going to provide some sort of subsidy to do that. Does that help?
It does, thank you. Then, I guess I feel it would be important to note somewhere here and somehow that the sale of those lots would be used to replenish the Strong Neighborhood Fund, because I think that's what I just heard you say.
And I think that the project itself is going to come back to the council when we get to that point. The land purchase would come here, and I would assume that the infrastructure would as well, correct?
That is
And I hear
correct.
the attorney saying yes behind me. So
Okay.
I'm
then
just not
that's-
sure how much of it'll come back and how muddy we want to make this.
I understand, but obviously there's been some confusion about how these funds will be spent on this special project.
Sure.
And so I don't want there to be confusion in the future about how we recoup those funds
Sure.
for this program. And so I guess it will be incumbent upon all of us to remember that if this happens, this acquisition.
I think as Director Schrader said, we could actually sell this to a developer and have it go that road as well at that point. So something will come back to the Common Council at that point when we get to
Okay, thank
a
you.
little further along the process. Alderman Sevenick? Whoops, I'm sorry. Alderman Rappel first.
Oh, thank you very much. Sam, would you be so kind to explain page 7 where it says, I noticed there's a whole lot of red there, so that was a change, disbursement procedures, and then page 11, there's a whole bunch of red there. Just explain what was changed and reasons why and how that fits our program.
Yeah, certainly. So this overall red line kind of started in looking at the extension process. So obviously, this past year, the Housing Authority did grant a couple of extensions. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to recommend official request for the Common Council for consideration. So these changes have gone before the Housing Authority. They have reviewed them at multiple meetings, and they're actually making this recommendation to the Common Council to be put in place. So again, extensions would be, typically the project would have to be for a curb appeal within 6 months of completion. And let's say for circumstances unknown, they can't get materials in place, they would be able to bring that forward to the Housing Authority for their consideration to extend that project an extra 6 months. Similar to appeals process, again, for a curb appeal, it is just a staff review. We've had one this past fall that has come about, that a contract was signed prior to the project being awarded, and per the policy, that was commencement of a project. So staff did deny that, and it did go forward for consideration, and they did look at that consideration. At the previous meeting, the one that did not actually go through the Housing Authority would be the disbursement procedures for the major renovation, as you noted on page 7. So with that, we had looked at the reimbursement procedures for the curb appeal, but there was nothing in there for the major renovation. So basically, this disbursement procedure just outlines at what point the city actually writes that check and distributes that money for that forgivable loan. The two other items on there on that page include letter H, that projects must be substantially completed within 12 months of the loan approval. So again, these major renovations, we're hoping that they trigger larger projects. And oftentimes what we're seeing is that 6-month window, especially with Wisconsin winters, depending on what that project might be, can be difficult to meet. So the Housing Authority actually did recommend increasing that to 12 months, as well as only doing one extension versus originally they were discussing 2 extensions. So to kind of touch that base. And then the next one is the transfer to a new owner. So previously it stated from 1 year within loan distribution that could be transferred. However, with that, if a project takes 12 months to complete and they put the house up for sale, and to transfer it to a homeowner within 1 year can be pretty difficult. And that's kind of the baseline of the program, is that we want that attempt to get that home ownership. So we looked at increasing that to 1 year from the completion of the project versus the actual approval of the loan.
Okay, and when does this, the appeals and the extensions and all of that stuff, is that on just for projects that were approved in 2022, or was it for projects approved previously, or when does that go into effect?
It would go into effect as soon as the council, if they were to approve it, at that point it would go into effect. So basically, again, there wasn't anything outlined previously on that aspect. So the Housing Authority did look at the intent of the program and did consider that, but they did want to bring it forward to the council for official red line version to be placed into the program for what they should be considering.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Back on page 7, this is kind of minor, but the indexing of all this is kind of messed up, in my opinion. You go from H-I-J-G-H, and then you cross out G, so I don't know what's going on there. Am I missing something?
It's coming from the page before, but it goes from
It goes B, C, D,
D and then, yeah.
and then to G,
Okay.
or to H, and then G, so it's all messed up.
I thought you were reading above. You're
No, I'm
correct.
talking just of the
Okay.
indexing of it, so that's minor, you guys just straighten that out.
We can fix that.
Okay, so back to page 8, the special projects again. And the last part of that, Alderman Nichols was touching a little bit on this, but my concern was the pedestrian transit. And is this to link the trail basically kind of thing? And then if so, that would it have to be a trail, or could it be we pay for the sidewalks? Is that what this is trying to do, or what?
Pedestrian
Like
transit.
she said, it's
yeah.
kind of vague.
Yeah, pedestrian transit, we would look at both trails and sidewalks. And again, once we get to that process, whatever would be placed. Now, knowing that we have the boardwalk and then the Nature's Way Trail, we would likely extend that trail through that corridor.
And is-
But again, that would be the final decision that would still come back to the council for consideration.
And is that a policy that the homeowners or the land purchasers will understand? Because I don't want to go through this again where we were told that this would be all open here and there would be no trail connections or sidewalks or that. And I've heard that for how many years now? And I want to make sure that if this is done, that once these properties are developed or purchased, and that between the developer and the people who are purchasing, they have a clear understanding that's what's going to happen.
And yes, and we've kind of taken that consideration from the council on the last development agreements that we've done.
Right.
The last handful that actually require a document be signed with the purchaser to make sure they do know that. So we will be adding that to any consideration.
Okay. And I'll say it again, this is still a living document that can always be updated. And if there's ever, we're learning from this. We've basically, it's a newer program, but it seems like a program we spend a lot of time on. And if council members ever have more things, they should contact Sam, and we should look at those. So, thank you.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. I'd like to offer a short amendment that could provide some clarity regarding this section on special projects, and it would be to have the sentence read, "and assist in the cost of infrastructure and the connectivity of the entire community." So we can be clear, or more clear anyway, on the intention of that statement.
So you want to take out adding and change it to infrastructure and?
Assist in the costs. Okay, it would read as so: acquire roughly 23 acres of vacant land in Calumet County, north of the Conservancy, to establish roughly 24 new affordable housing lots, and assist in the cost of infrastructure and connectivity of the entire community through vehicular and pedestrian transit.
So motion is second for the amendment. Do we have any discussion on the amendment? Did you get that, Haley? Okay, we'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And now the the project plan as amended. Any other discussion? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote on that, please.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item N is public comments on any matter listed on the agenda. Seeing no one, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
The University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh Fox Cities campus assists the City of Menasha with video recordings of city meetings. Menasha residents and interested parties can get information about city meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the city website, www.cityofmenasha-wi.gov. To express opinions about City of Menasha issues or these broadcasts, contact the Mayor's office, 920-967-3608. Contact a city alderman. Contact information appears on the website. Or complete the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.